yeah, today I have kind of two topics in one talk. The first one will be about, the thoughts that make you suffering. It's like Eckhart is saying, 95% of the suffering and the depression we have is caused by the thoughts that we resist and cannot accept what is. And yes, it's so true, because just think of the one fact that a situation that just occurs is already past as well. Try to think of it that way. Something occurs and it's past. Try to speed up your system so you are not able to react and think think about how and why and this happened. Just go on finding already the solution to change that, because it happens automatically. Life runs forward, not backward. So if something is there, the solution is also there, but as long as you start hanging into that old situation, the solution will not be visible for you. It's there, but you won't see it. So yes, learn to let the thoughts go. And now enjoy listening to that talk. And the second one will be the same topic from yesterday about the being and doing balance. And it's very nice and interesting, and I also add some of my experiences here to both talks. Enjoy listening and enjoy your wonderful free gift that I'm talking about in the final end of all talks.
For most humans, they don't even know that they have a voice in the head that never stops talking. Most of the time, silently in your head. At other times, it may even shout something out, so it wants to be heard. And so, if you walk in the street, you will find most people look fairly sane. They're not talking to themselves, it seems, because they're not talking out aloud. But if you listened into everybody's head, you would be amazed of how noisy the inside of every human is. So a significant part of what happens in your mind, the larger part, is actually just superfluous noise. Thinking is a wonderful ability, a wonderful tool. If used rightly, it is an instrument that causes dysfunction and misery for millions on the planet, unhappiness for millions on the planet, if thinking is not used, but if you are used by thought. So when humans say, I think, in most cases, that's actually not true, because they have no control over their thinking. It's a compulsive and involuntary. And they are so identified with these thought processes, they don't even know that they are in the grip of their thought processes, because they are so identified, they become their thought processes. So whatever comes into your head, you completely believe in it, and then that's how it is. Leon just mentioned, I don't know, we were talking this morning or yesterday about when I was struggling to survive on a physical plane. I often ate baked beans on toast. I was living in England. There's a little bit of relevance here too, and that could have been a very unhappy period in my life, not being able what to live on the next day or the day after. And again, now I'm able to have good meals occasionally, and I haven't had baked beans on toast in a long time now, but Leon gave me a can. yesterday. Now, when I was reduced to eating baked beans on toast, and again, that's a wrong way of putting it, it could have been very unhappy. I was already in my 30s, and so my mind, my mental commentary, the involuntary thought processes would normally have said, this is your complete failure, you can't afford the rent, you don't know, you have no income, you've made a mess out of your life, and this is what I'm reduced to, baked beans on toast. Look at your contemporaries that are driving around in their BMWs. They've got all that, and so this is what life has done to me, or what I have done to mess up my life. I could have had many kinds of narratives accompanying what was happening in the present moment that would have created unhappiness, and I wouldn't even have known it. And this happens, just a small example of how a narrative that you have that accompanies something that you are doing causes unhappiness. And you can do the same thing without the narrative, and you're free of unhappiness. You're eating baked beans on toast, and actually doesn't taste that bad at all. And you swallow, and it is nourishing, and you don't even have to say that. You can simply enjoy the sensory perceptions associated with that without building a sense of self around it. The sense of self that you build around it arises through involuntary and compulsive thinking, me. And the Buddha was already talking about that. There's just a simple, if you only take this away from this evening, but hopefully there will be much more. If you only take this away, if you look at whenever you feel unhappiness, this is a generic term, unhappiness in whatever form. Unhappiness can arise as irritation, can arise as anger, can arise as even boredom is a form of unhappiness, sadness, all kinds of states that they don't feel pleasant, unhappiness, and usually they are attributed to a life situation, something that's going on in your life. So, for example, waiting at the airline counter, and of course how often things don't go well there. Let's hope they don't drag you out of the plane, but that could happen too. Whenever you feel irritation arising, anger arising, upset in whatever form, ask yourself, is this caused by the situation, or is it caused by what my mind is telling me about the situation? And in 95% of cases, you will find that the mental commentary that argues and complains about something that's going on, but should not be going on, but it is, but shouldn't be, and the gap between what is and what the mind says should be or should not be, that gap is the arising of unhappiness and misery, or as the Buddha called suffering. It arises in the gap between the isness of things in this moment and the arguing with the isness of things in this moment, imposing a narrative on it that says, no, this should not be. I'm not talking about situations where you can take action to change it. There are certain situations where action is possible and necessary. Fine. But even if action is possible and necessary at this very moment, it still is as it is. Then you can take action. But this moment is as it is. So when you leave, or when you allow this moment to be as it is because you recognize the inevitability of is. This seems so obvious, but it's not obvious to most humans. The inevitability of what is already the case now. And if you can internally align yourself with this inevitable now, the next moment is a different thing, but when the next moment comes, it's now, of course. There is no next moment except as a thought in the head. Where is the future? You've never experienced it, you can't. Impossible. And yet, humans think about it more than the present moment. They want to get to the future because they don't want what is. They believe some kind of liberation or fulfillment will come next, always missing the isness of things. So, if unhappiness arises, examine, does it come, is it caused by the situation I'm in, or is it caused by how my mind is interpreting the situation?
Yes, I excuse myself. I have my cold, but it's getting better and better. If you listen to the past talks, you will experience how it changes day by day. So, okay, this talk from Eckhart that you just heard is really funny because it reminds me of my time in England too. I lived in England for 6 months as well, and I loved baked beans. I still do. And I would eat every night baked beans. Every night. I was so into them. I loved them. Baked beans, but with a potato, not with a toast. With the big jacket potato. And that reminds me also on this simplicity. That what do you really need? You just need the right thought about something. Yeah? And that is what Eckhart is saying. If you don't connect to it, or you decide to connect always in a positive way. I like that even more. It's a next level, let's say. You could either not connect at all, or you connect, but you connect completely positive. Enjoying. You can enjoy bad situations that you have created by acknowledging and admitting, yes, I've created them. Okay, I'm quite a tough or a very experience-wanting, creative person. And you can have some kind of humor about such situations. And as Eckhart explains, he was in a bad financial situation, which I am kind of still. But the worst was, I had last year very bad situations where people stole a lot of money from me. A lot. And as he explains, you can look at it like, oh my god, and totally, completely, completely lose your mind about it. Or you can look at it and really admit that you have created it. And I had to admit that. I had a wanting in me that wanted to experience that. And I know exactly the thoughts that I had. And I don't know if you are the same way, really observing what you think. And if you do that, you will find out that if something happens, you were thinking in a way before to kind of wanting something like this to happen. I mean, not exactly this, but something that gives you that kind of feeling that a certain situation causes in you. And I know this might be already quite for some people, I don't know how you think, but to be like not so clear. And you might think, no, I never thought something like that. Or it could be that you don't like, because it needs a lot of consciousness, which I assume not every human is as trained in. That consciousness, observation about them, about yourself, which I am also only because I have been raised quite self-dependent. Like I had to very early do everything by myself. My parents had no time for us, and they wanted us to be, especially my dad, wanted me to be very independent, that I'm able to do everything by myself and think things through by myself with my own thoughts. And that was a good thing, but also a challenging thing. Of course, everything that you encounter as being a bad side of you, or that you have like, let's say you've had a bad past or a bad childhood, this is your gift. The skills you learn from, and the kind how you are, the way you are formed by that, is a gift to you that you can use to completely for the opposite way. It's a huge benefit for you, that brought you a behavior that could make you alive, and that can still help you becoming more successful, more wealthy, more healthy in your life, and more supportive to others, especially. This is actually the case. You become much more supportive through that what you have learned from quite some struggling in your past. And I was having to have stood by myself quite right from the beginning, and that later on brought me many things. I mean, I was braver than others at my age as I was younger. I remember I was braver doing things, trying out new things than others. I studied mechanical engineering, and as the only woman in the course, what I wanted to say is that, even if it was hard, you developed certain skills that are a big benefit that you can use today. So whatever happens that you created, you can always take it even in a humorous way, change it in a humorous way. It's much, much easier, much nicer, and it brings you out of situations a lot faster. It brings you out of these situations and brings you faster into complete opposite situations, very fast. If you turn your way of thinking about something into a real positive, humorous, exciting, funny, like a dance of light, dance of light in life way. Okay, now we got the next talk from Eckhart about, again, from the same topic from yesterday, but even a lot more deeper and better. I love that one, about the being and doing balance. So enjoy listening.
So he said, when I listen to you, I have this strong compulsion to become a spiritual teacher also. But when I listen to a great business leader, suddenly I have the compulsion to become a great business leader. What to do? And my recommendation to you is to try the business leader first. I also recommend Tony Robbins seminars, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's one aspect of life. It's, I can do it, yeah, do it. Build up your energy, yeah. And it's quite enlivening, so it's not a bad place to go to and try things out. If let's say that he represents doing and I represent being, but there is, as you know, the symbol of yin-yang, the intertwining the two, and in the middle of the one of the one polarity, the yang, there's a little dot, and that represents the other. And in the middle of the other, there's a little dot that represents the yang. And so I have a little bit of the other in me too, as you can see. And I found to my amazement that Tony Robbins, I don't know when he started doing that, he has introduced short periods of meditation into his seminars, usually towards the end, and then he goes, now let's just be very quiet. And oh, so that's the other, the other one, the yin is coming into the yang. Well, that's good. Of course, ideally, in a human life, a human being, you remember what that word means, those two words mean when you put them together. Human is the form that you are, and human is the doing, whatever the form does. The being is who you are in your essence. So you are both. You are the being, the consciousness, and you are the form that consciousness takes. And the form that consciousness takes will do things and think and do and act upon the world and be acted upon. So there's hardly any human, there may be some human beings who are completely balanced between the human and the being, who are in the being and the doing, the human and the being. They're right in the middle. Most people go a little bit that way or a little bit more that way. Our civilization as a whole, of course, has gone into the doing mode very, very far to one extreme. So there's the civilization itself is actually mentally ill because of that. And the connectedness with being has been almost entirely lost. So it's a very fragile civilization despite its many achievements. It's a little bit like when you go into a supermarket where they sell fruit. You look at the oranges and they look so shiny and polished, and the tomatoes, they look so shiny and polished. But often when you cut them open, they're completely dry inside and tasteless. So that's a little bit our civilization. The surface appearance is nice and shiny, but if you look deeper, you can say there's something that is something fundamental that is missing there, and therefore the civilization, unless it returns back to some kind of balance between being and doing, it cannot survive for that much longer. And that's why we are here. And so predominantly what we focus on here is the being side, because we need to redress the balance within the collective and in your personal life too, because every individual conditioned by this society tends to live, even starts with little young children. They're already taught to be in the just do and think and right and go, let's get going. Okay, all attention goes out, and then they start their video games and stuff. They can't focus on anything for very long. That's a huge disability. Many young people have that these days because of the influence of many factors, and especially the video stuff and devices that they have, cannot focus on anything for very long anymore, cannot give attention to anything for very long, because the mind goes. Because that's what, then they watch video games or even many movies, the scene changes every few seconds. And so, if you cannot give attention to something for a certain period of time, there's never a flow of creativity. You cannot, because creativity, you have to, your attention needs to rest upon something, and you need to give it time and look and be with it and become still. And then creativity flows. If a whole generation grows up that is unable to do that, then the civilization cannot produce anything new, and so it cannot even cope with its problems anymore, because even to cope with problems in a good way, you need to be able to look at a problem and be with it, and then allow the greater intelligence to inspire you and then come up with a solution. So humans, as I call it, they are lost in doing, lost in the mind, they're lost in thinking. And because thinking is a kind of doing too, you're doing your thinking. Well, you are not. The thinking is doing stuff to you, you're not even thinking. Thinking happens to you. Humans say, I think. They don't think. Thinking is an autonomous activity in their minds, a reflection of the collective mind. They are not thinking, they are being used by thought, which is, and their personal thoughts are just an aspect of the collective thoughts, and they don't know that. So you are being thought, you don't think. Those who are naturally more drawn towards being, they don't really fit into our society at all. In older cultures, there was some room for them. They could go, there were many monasteries they could go to, and there were many jobs that actually did not require you to do a lot of doing. You could just be, there were simple jobs that you could do. And nowadays it's harder for the humans who have this natural inclination towards being to fit into this world. But even those who are very effective at doing eventually become frustrated and unhappy because they realize the emptiness of their doing. So even those who have become very successful doers encounter frustration and emptiness, not the Buddhist emptiness, a different kind of emptiness. And so society is, our civilization is longing, without knowing it, is longing to return to the roots, to the being dimension. And that's why things like these strange videos on YouTube are becoming so popular, because it is one way of getting a little bit of of being and getting out of doing. And so you watch half an hour of somebody handling an object. Wow, so lovely.
Yeah, that part was about balancing between the doing and the being, and the explanation, like yesterday. And I really like how he explains this. And I would like to just give you my own experience in this, as like me and my partner that I have or had. But we are so exactly the opposite in this being and doing. He is the being completely and I'm the doing completely. Although it's said that the being is more the female part, and the doing is more the male part. But it's completely the opposite way here. And it became really out of balance, that I was even more doing. And he was even more being. And that's what is happening often in relationships, that we mirror each other's parts that we don't want to allow ourselves. So what you can do is allow the other part, the little yin or the little yang part in you, to also grow up and to let it be there. Because if you only live this one side, of course the other part has to live the other side. So now I want to wish you a very, very nice day and a very nice lifetime. And always think of the one important fact: who you are. You are the lottery win of your life. And you always will be, of your life and of all the others around you. And P.S. if you like to have a free coaching session, yes, free, with me for like 1 to 2 hours about whatever comes up right now in the moment, then feel free, contact me, Facebook, Instagram, you will find me. And we will make it up, a video conference for you to solve whatever is there. You will see it. It is really a wonderful gift that will change your energy and has the potential to change your life from that moment on. So I'm looking forward to seeing and hearing you. Bye bye.